I guess overall, I went to PACE from grade 4 to grade 8, and my experience was just so good. Like, no matter what, I always felt supportive. I always felt like I always felt that I could try to do my best and try to explore my interests and I was always encouraged to explore my interests, which is something that I just truly loved about PACE.
I'm Agnes Stowicki, Managing Editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private and independent schools to bring you insights into school programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administration. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
What I appreciate the most about PACE was probably the support from everyone, especially the principal, the administration, and of course, all the teachers. Because when I was in grade 7, I was in a Mervish production and I was in a show called Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And because of that, I missed a lot of school. I missed around 3 months, and there was a lot of rehearsals and show dates, so I missed a lot of school. But the teachers were always ready to provide extra help, which made balancing the show and my school work so much easier. And sometimes the teachers even re-explained lessons to me because I missed it. And on a regular basis, I feel like the PACE staff are very supportive and want you to be able to do your best and succeed. And I overall just really appreciate the supportive environment that PACE provided when I went to PACE. I would describe the school's values and culture. I would say curiosity, collaboration, community, personal growth, and probably respect. So curiosity, I would say curiosity because PACE always encouraged us to dive more deeply and understand concepts that are beyond just the regular curriculum. We were always encouraged to think more deeply and try to learn more. And I think that's a key part of PACE itself. Second, on collaboration, I think collaboration is also one of PACE's core values because we were always encouraged to work as a team and help each other grow in this supportive environment. Third, I said community because PACE is not a very large school, but despite being a smaller school, PACE is an environment where everyone feels very close and feels very connected, and it's a very close and tight-knit community. And this friendly community helped me build a lot of strong bonds with my classmates and a lot of good friendships. Last, or no, I said personal growth because I think personal growth is a very key part of the PACE experience because we were always supported in becoming more confident and independent people who could take leadership. And that was something that teachers and everyone always encouraged us to do is to grow and become better and try to become the best versions of ourselves. And I would say respect lastly, because PACE always valued respect, and we were in the environment where it ensured that we were being treated and treating other people with respect. And I think that was another key part of the PACE like environment. The principal, Miss Gershi, she was always very friendly and very welcoming. She was supportive, but she was always very organized. And Miss Gershi was always willing to provide opportunities to students, which helped us succeed. And I think the team at PACE always made it clear that trying to make a positive school environment was their priority. And Miss Gershi always tried to help every student succeed, especially if they had a challenge, they would help them with it. And and I think their team ensured that everything ran very smoothly. And overall, it was just a very, they just worked very well and was always very friendly and welcoming. Since PACE is a gifted school, PACE's approach to academics was very well suited, especially for gifted students, because the curriculum was designed for gifted students and with gifted students in mind. And I think the curriculum wasn't just accelerated like 1 or 2 years ahead, but it was also we dove into greater depth. We learned a lot deeper, and they helped us want to learn topics, like really want and love to learn these topics in a very meaningful way because PACE is designed for gifted learners and the curriculum was specifically designed because of that. And overall, PACE's curriculum is academically rigorous, but that helped me build very strong study habits and confidence in my abilities and my like school skills. And that made a huge difference, especially now because I'm in high school. I think back to me being at PACE and it was building a very strong foundation for me now that I'm in high school. But I think it wasn't only just like the academically, not only just like the topics we covered, but PACE's curriculum also had a lot of like prioritized collaboration, like problem solving or leadership or critical thinking because there were, like I mentioned, there were a lot of group projects as well as individual projects, and that allowed us to collaborate with each other really, really well and learn how to collaborate with each other. But also, there were a lot of opportunities for leadership. For example, there's student council, grade representative, or peer tutoring, and they were all opportunities for you to be able to foster your leadership skills, which I really liked about that. But I think one more thing is there are a lot of opportunities to go beyond just the regular classroom or the curriculum because there were competitions such as Model UN and DECA, which PACE went to every single year. And that was also more opportunities for you to be able to explore your different interests. I think PACE is able to balance extracurriculars very well with the academics because I think PACE is a very well-rounded school and they offer a lot of options that allow every student to explore their interests, like I said, beyond just the classroom. I remember there were a lot of clubs, whether it was musical theater, choir, robotics, or there were a lot of competitive sports as well, like ultimate frisbee, soccer, basketball, badminton, and cross country. I think there was something for everyone. And if like even if you're not confident in trying something new, the school would encourage you to go for it and just try to do it. And the support you receive made it so easy for you to just step outside your comfort zone and try something new. But if you weren't interested in those, there were also a lot of fun clubs like knitting, chess, there's dance, there's reach for the top. I feel like PACE was very well rounded in fact that there was something for everyone. And if you really wanted to do something, they would support you and encourage you to try something new. But additionally, every single year there was something called Festival of Words or Winterlude where we would perform in the like Richmond Hill Arts Performing Center. And I think this allowed us as students to gain confidence in performing in front of a crowd, which is a very necessary skill to learn. But overall, PACE was able to combine the extracurricular aspect with the academic aspect very well because it was very well rounded. The teachers at PACE were very, very good teachers. They were always very supportive and they addressed every student's needs. At PACE, there's this thing called homework help session, and that happened between 3 and 3:45. During that time, you can complete your homework, but what makes it unique is that teachers are always free to answer any questions if you have any, and the teachers were always willing to help you out. And you get this one-on-one time with the teachers, which I believe was very important because it was very important, especially when I didn't understand a concept. I was able to ask my teachers about it, but always felt like encouraged to ask my teachers question or my ask my teachers for any help, which they always provided. Like I never felt scared to go up to my teachers because they always made it clear that they were free to help and I always felt encouraged to ask any questions. But I think not only were the teachers supportive, but they were also very good at just saying the lesson and teaching us the concepts in a way that was very clear and easy to understand. They knew how to break down these like complex ideas and complex lessons, and this helped me and a lot of the other students understand them a lot more. And I knew that because every single time there was a test, I always felt pretty well prepared because I already knew most of the information already because the teachers were able to explain them in a very clear and like easy to understand way. For similarities, one of them was is probably everyone is gifted, and that's like pretty clear because Pace is a gifted school. But I think that's really important because we were always encouraging each other to be better. We like built off of each other, we got inspired by each other. And Pace has a very close-knit community, like I mentioned before, because it's not a very big school. That's how we became the best versions of ourselves because we were constantly being surrounded by people that were so similar to us, that think similarly to us. And we were always able to learn from each other because of that. And we were able to learn from each other and excel from each other because of how passionate we all were for learning. It's the motivation that we got from each other that challenged us to keep trying to be our best and striving to be our best. But I think yeah, that's one of the main similarities is just that we were all gifted and we were all encouraging each other to be the best versions of ourselves. For differences, I would say probably we were just all different people. Like we all had different personalities. We all learned in different ways, especially in terms of the personalities. Like some students were more extroverts and some students were more introverts, and each students learn in different ways. But regardless, I think we were all able to support and encourage each other in the supportive pace environment because we would all help each other if we didn't understand anything. Students like we would all I could go up to my classmates and ask them for like any help, and they were always very like we all had a very close community. And I think that even though we all had different personalities and learning skills, at the end of the day, we all came and encouraged each other in the supportive environment. Something unique about the student life at this school is, like I mentioned previously, I think we were always encouraged to go deeper or explore our interests more, whether that meant deep diving into like a specific subject such as science or taking like risks and trying something completely new. We were always encouraged into trying to explore what we liked and exploring our interests. And like I mentioned before, Pace is a gifted school, and we were around others constantly who were just as curious and just as passionate as us. And that made the learning experience a lot more exciting because we were constantly being surrounded by people that were so similar to us. And I just love that overall. And I think that's something unique that you get at Pace. But one thing is also additionally, Pace, as I mentioned, isn't a very large school, but you're able to interact with the other grades more because it isn't a large school. And that goes back to what I said about Pace being a tight knit community, which is a very important aspect about Pace because you're able to not only interact with your entire grade, but other grades as well. In terms of the facilities, they have like I mentioned before, Pace isn't like a very large school. It's a smaller school, but they have what like the students needs, and Pace uses the space it has very well. There's a drama room which includes a stage and a balcony and a props and costumes room and everything you need to have for a drama production. There's a band room which is perfect for band rehearsals. There were a science lab, robotics labs where students were able to learn more into science and robotics. There was also an art studio where you're able to like do arts and paint and do all the things offered in the arts. But yeah, that in terms of facilities, I think Pace wasn't a very large school, but they overall had everything. They had drama, they had band, they had arts, they had robotics, they had science, they had a gym, they had like everything that the students could need. In terms of the location of Pace, I really like the location of Pace. It was very nice because it was in a very nice, quiet, friendly neighborhood. It's in Richmond Hill and it was very nice and quiet. But if you walked out for a couple of minutes, like 2, 3 minutes, it was very convenient. Especially if you wanted to go out for lunch, there were a lot of options. There was like a Harvey's, a Popeyes, a Starbucks. a subway, and there were that made the experience very enjoyable because it was in such a convenient location. Like there weren't any disturbing noises outside, but if you walked over a little bit, it was a very nice like area for you to go for lunch and just enjoy yourself. I remember being testing for gifted when I was in grade two, when I found out I was gifted. But that year, PACE was full for the grade three year. So I applied again for grade four because I like really, my parents heard about PACE and they knew that they found out I was gifted. So they wanted to try to get me into PACE. But as a part of your missions, like the reason why I really loved it and told my parents that I loved it a lot was because I instantly loved it and I felt like I fit in immediately because I remember everyone was very welcoming and everyone was so supportive and everyone was so friendly and it was such a good experience. Especially, I remember with one major difference was I originally came from a Montessori school and the learning method there is completely different. I remember there was only one teacher per class at my Montessori school, and that one teacher would teach everything like math, science, grammar. That was all taught by one person at my Montessori school. But at PACE, it was completely different because all the teachers were like specialized, I would say, for each subject. And I love that since you were able to learn more into like greater depth in that like one subject. And that was another reason I loved PACE. So yeah, a part of my admissions process, you get to spend a day at PACE to see if you like it. And I loved it. So that's why I ultimately decided to attend PACE. Three reasons. I have like so many reasons, but if I could pick three, probably first, like I mentioned a lot of times, is that PACE is a gifted program, and the curriculum, like I said, is designed for gifted children, and that allows students to like dive deeper into subjects, like I mentioned, and this challenges you like not only academically because you're able to explore topics more throughout, but also like after I am now in high school, like I mentioned, I realized how much of a foundation that PACE built because it was such a smooth transition for me academically from PACE to my new high school because of the academic rigorousness of PACE. And that just made it easier for the transition to high school. And I feel like that's very important because of the study skills that I built and just the academics itself. Secondly, I would say I haven't mentioned this a lot, but there was a very strong sense of like community and like spirit as well. Because I did mention this, but PACE like is a very tight-knit community and a close-knit community. But when you arrive at PACE, you're sorted into like a student house, which is like you from everyone from different grades gets sorted into one of four houses. And on house days, you would play some fun house games and sports game against each other. And this created a very strong sense of community because this helped students from different grades come together and support one another. And this helped me personally form a lot of close friendships. Yeah, form a lot of close friendships, but also the fact that we were able to interact with students from other grades made the community feel so like nice and so real. And there's such a strong sense of the community and spirit at PACE. Lastly, um, I would say PACE, like the supportive environment at PACE, because the teachers were very supportive, they were very approachable. Like if you had any questions for your teachers, they always made sure that you were comfortable in asking them because like for example during class or during homework help session there's always a time to ask your teachers questions if you have any, and they always like want you to be able to succeed. They truly want to see you do your best and be the best version of yourself, and that's the last reason. It's that PACE is like very supportive. So firstly, I said PACE is a gifted program. Secondly, because there's such a strong sense of community, and lastly because of like the supportive environment that at PACE. I guess overall, I went to PACE from grade four to grade eight, and my experience was just so good. Like, no matter what, I always felt supportive. I always felt I always felt that I could try to do my best and try to explore my interests and I was always encouraged to explore my interests, which is something that I just truly loved about PACE. And yeah, and the environment, it was so supportive, it was so welcoming, it's so friendly, and just a school that I would definitely recommend.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.